and today we are back with another match preview. Today we are here for arguably one of the biggest of the season. It's the Manchester derby, isn't it? It's Manchester City versus Manchester United. Now, as we always do, we do have a watch long for today's game. Link to that will be in the description down below. But essentially, the stream will start at 3:30 with kickoff being at 2 o'clock tomorrow. So be there or be square, essentially. Let's talk about the game. Obviously, the most interesting bit. Where do both teams kind of sit in the Premier League table as it stands? Because obviously, Manchester United's bad start to the season was very much documented. But we're a lot closer to Man City than we get given credit for. Now, Manchester United have played one game less than Manchester City, and yet are only 5 points off of Manchester City. Not terrible. It's not terrible. Is there more work? Is there work to be done? Of course there is. But we're in there, and you can't fault us for that. If we can beat them today, we've got a game in hand on them, and that game in hand could take us above them. But obviously, we know the kind of challenges Manchester City will bring into this sort of game. They are one of, if not the best team in the Premier League, arguably the world. This isn't going to be a walk in the park, but it never is in a Manchester derby. And that's what makes this game quite exciting. We know it's going to be difficult, but we've seen that when we've played the likes of Arsenal, the likes of Liverpool, we can play against the good teams and put in a fight. Obviously, United haven't played in a while, or at least a real competitive game. Our last game was, of course, in the Europa League against Sheriff, which we did win 2-0. Jadon Sancho and Cristiano Ronaldo getting the goals in that game. And again, we weren't amazing, but we got the job done. But, like I said, we've had 2 games in the Premier League back-to-back suspended due to the Queen's passing. Obviously, first of all, it was the Crystal Palace game, and then we had Leeds cancelled. Then we obviously had the big international break. But in a sense, it has come in kind of a benefit, because I mean, when we'll get into the team news now, a few players from Manchester United will be back. But first, we will talk about Manchester City. Now, over the international break, a few injuries have occurred. John Stones got injured on international duty when we played Italy, I believe. So he's out for this game. Calvin Phillips has been injured all season, more or less, and he is still out. And Aymeric Laporte has a knee injury, so he will miss out. For me, undoubtedly, Man City's key player is Erling Haaland. He's a player that you give him a chance, and we know Manchester City will create chances. You give that man a chance, he will score. No doubts about it. He is a ruthless finisher. And what makes him so good is that inevitability about him. You know he will score every game. You go into games expecting him to score. And that's such a kind of asset to have in your team. It's unbelievable. He is such a good player, Erling Haaland. You give him a chance, he will put it in the back of the net. And in Manchester City's 4-3-3, obviously he will be that focal point down the middle. On the wings, you're going to have Phil Foden, Mahrez. You're going to have Bernardo Silva potentially. You're going to have, obviously, in the midfield 3, Gundogan. You're going to have, obviously, Kevin De Bruyne. So much quality to create and facilitate for Erling Haaland. It was going to be a huge game for the likes of Lisandro Martinez. Obviously, we know Martinez has played up against Haaland before, when Haaland was at Dortmund, and of course Martinez was at Ajax. And he did do well against him. He's kind of succeeded against him. However, he's in a better team now. It's a real true test of Lisandro Martinez and how he will get on. Obviously, I've said in the past, obviously at a stage and against certain players, his height will be targeted. And against an Erling Haaland, it's going to be one of those games where his physicality, his height is dominant. Because Erling Haaland dominates most centre-backs as it is. And obviously, being a centre-back is not all about height. However, at the same time, some of it is. Like, you can't argue with basic physics, essentially. If someone is twice the size of you, chances are they're going to be able to outdo you physically. And that's an issue we might have with Haaland today. Well, tomorrow, I should say, against Martinez. So it'll be interesting to see how Martinez kind of adapts his game to overcome Erling Haaland. And can we be one of the first teams, really, to kind of nullify Erling Haaland? Because most managers haven't been able to do that. Hello, mate. How are we? Yeah, I remember you. How are we? Sorry my voice sounds a bit croaky. It is a bit gone. But, looking on to our team news, we have got some good news. Now, Donny van de Beek, he's got a knock, so it looks like he won't be available to play. Good news for some, Harry Maguire is certainly out for the game. He won't be on the bench. He's got a thigh injury, which he picked up on international duty. He will not be in the matchday squad. The good news is that Anthony Martial and Marcus Rashford have both been in training for Manchester United over the last couple of days and could well feature. Whether or not they'll be able to start or it'll have to be as a cameo off the bench, we're not sure. But they have been in training. It's about how fit are they. Martial especially has been out for a very, very long time. And especially with Martial, who's been getting injured a lot recently, is it a risk you take to throw him in there and be like, you're a key player for us, go out there and prove it? Or do you say, look, yes, we want you for this game, but we've got to look at the bigger picture. We've got to remember in 2 weeks' time, we've got Spurs, for example, and we need you for that. And if we have to kind of sacrifice you and what you may bring to this sort of game to make sure you are fully fit for that game and then the next 5 to 10 games up until the World Cup, then that's what we'll have to do. And I think as well for Martial, he kind of has to take a bit of responsibility for that himself. Obviously, he wants to go to the World Cup with France. And with players like Benzema getting injured, I don't know whether he will be back or not. There are spots in that French team. Martial, a lot last season, was in the French team. And he wants to be in there. He needs to make sure he's fit for that to give himself the best possible chance of going. Same with Marcus Rashford. So they might even come out and just say, Eric, I would love to play, but I need to be fit for the World Cup. I need to be fully ready to help this team for the rest of the season up until that World Cup, not just for this game and then be out for another 3 weeks because I've rushed myself back in. And I think that will be an interesting dynamic coming into this game. Are these players fully fit or are they slightly off? And that's where it makes my kind of team predictions quite difficult. For Erik ten Hag, this is the team I imagine he'll go with. I think that back 4/5, you include De Gea, is pretty much bang on. Dalot, Varane, Lisandro Martinez and Tyrell Malacia. They've been absolutely fantastic since they've come in. I get one in the... Who did we play third game of the season? Liverpool. Yeah, so that obviously like I said, they've been the back three since Liverpool and they've been great. Luke Shaw was good on international duty, but I think Tyrell Malacia keeps his place and he's the only one really I can see pushing for a first team spot at the moment. I really don't see a world in which Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, or I can't even think of another centre-back that would be fit. I can't see how any of them break into this team. I think he'll probably stick with McTominay. McTominay's has been pretty good, to be fair. Like, I'm not a big fan of Scott McTominay. However, give him his flowers. He's done well. Is he at the required level for us to get where we want to be? No, I don't think he is. But that doesn't change the fact he is performing well. And I think Erik ten Hag will stick with him. Of course, Christian Eriksen will stay in that midfield. And then a front three, I think he risks Rashford. I think there's been talk that Marcus Rashford would be fit and available for this game. And looks like he will be. And I think Marcus Rashford may be risked because of what he's kind of offered in games against the likes of Arsenal and Liverpool on that counter-attack. And then I think we might see someone like an Anthony Martial come on 60th, 70th minute, especially if we have a lead or we're still in the game, to try and then push for it a little bit more. I think that with all that in mind, I don't think Ronaldo starts, so Sancho and Anthony naturally take their places on the two flanks. And we're going to see a similar team that we've seen, like I said, against the likes of Arsenal and Liverpool. For me, however, I wouldn't do this. I would go with this team. So same back four, or back five, again, if you include in David De Gea. I would then go for Casemiro and Christian Eriksen in those deeper positions. I just think eventually you have to bring your best players in. Yes, McTominay's in good form, and potentially when McTominay starts, I'm not going to be massively annoyed. I just think, like I said, eventually Casemiro is a better player than McTominay. You put him in, you get him playing at his best, or towards his best, and we'll be better. So I think you throw him in. He's played well for Brazil. He should be match fit. Eventually he has to go in. Put him in for this game alongside Christian Eriksen. And then if you need to, you can bring on McTominay in the second half. But I would go for Casemiro and Eriksen. I would actually drop Anthony. Simply because I just think I think you have to start Anthony Martial, and I think you have to start Marcus Rashford if they are 90% ready. If they're 90%, I think you start both. Because we need to be able to have some sort of control on this game. We can't allow Manchester City to just dominate us. And Martial is going to be crucial to that. When he gets the ball, he can hold it up, he can distribute, he can kind of play make in a sense. Rashford can't do that as a striker. Cristiano Ronaldo can't do that. Martial can, and we need someone like that leading the line. And I think you need someone with that raw pace on the two flanks to kind of exploit their weaknesses when in transition, when their fullbacks come in narrow and invert. And I think Marcus Rashford will do that. And I just think Jadon Sancho is a little bit more creative. He will work backwards and forwards. And he has a bit of a chip on his shoulder. He's been in the goals this season. So I would start Sancho. And to be fair, I haven't seen loads of Anthony. Bits have impressed me. Bits I'm like, eh. Like if it was this team but Anthony started over Sancho, I'm not minding too much. But I just think it's got to be Anthony or Sancho on the bench, unless you're taking out Bruno Fernandes, which is of course never going to happen because Bruno Fernandes is the captain. He's a goal threat. He is a leader for us on the pitch, and he's not going to be dropped. Although I don't think playing a front four of Anthony, Sancho, Rashford and Martial with Jadon Sancho in that number 10 role is a bad idea at all. I think he could be really, really good there. But look, with all that being said, what is my prediction for this game? Now, like I've said, this isn't going to be an easy game. This is going to be really difficult. Manchester City are a top team. There's a reason they are where they are in the Premier League. 17th for a reason. 17 points, sorry. Second for a reason. They are quality. We have to be at our best. And to be fair, looking back at our time with like Solskjaer, these players often get up for a game like this. Looking at the games against Arsenal and Liverpool, we get up for these sort of games. And we can beat teams like Manchester City at our best. Do I think we'll beat them? I don't. I'm being realistic. I do think we can get a draw though. I think we've seen teams, Aston Villa, Newcastle, have shown weaknesses in this Manchester City team. They've kind of, in a sense, given a blueprint of how you can beat this team. Obviously, you have to have a bit of luck. And I'm hoping we can get that. But we've got better players than Newcastle. We've got better players than Aston Villa. If they can get something against them, I think we can too. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Now, look, if you guys have enjoyed this match preview, please do hit that like button below and subscribe if you are new and you haven't already. That would be greatly appreciated. And please do tune in for the watch along. Like I said, details are on my side. Stream starts at 1:30. Kickoff is at 2 o'clock. There's also a link to that in the description down below. But if you want to be notified when I go live, make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you have hit that notification bell, so you will, like I said, get notified when we go live for that. Anyway, that's going to be it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one in a bit. Peace.